Over the Pacific Northwest, in freezing rain and full dark, a man in a business suit and loafers walks to the back of the plane, opens the rear stairs into the storm, and steps out. $200,000 is strapped to his body. He is never seen again. No parachute has ever been found. No body, no trace of him has ever surfaced. In the entire history of American commercial aviation, this is the only hijacking anyone has ever finished by jumping out of the plane mid-flight, and it worked well enough that whoever did it was never caught. Rewind 6 hours. Portland International Airport, the afternoon before Thanksgiving 1971. A man who bought his ticket with cash, under the name Dan Cooper, boards Northwest Orient Flight 305, a 30-minute hop to Seattle. He takes the last row, seat 18E, and orders a bourbon and 7-Up. He passes a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She pockets it, thinking it is a phone number, until he asks her to read it. Inside the briefcase on his lap, what looks like a bomb. His demand carried straight to the cockpit. $200,000 in cash, 2 front parachutes, 2 back parachutes, delivered by 5 o'clock that evening. The plane circles for hours while Seattle scrambles the money and the parachutes. On landing, Northwest Operations Manager Al Lee delivers the ransom himself, in plain clothes so Cooper won't mistake an airline uniform for the police. Flight attendant Tina Mucklow carries the bag to him. Every passenger and Schaffner walk off that plane unharmed, but something didn't fit. A stewardess took down his instructions word for word. Flaps at 15 degrees, gear down, airspeed under 200 knots. When the crew claimed the tanks were full, he corrected them. Only 96% was actually on board. Whoever this man was, he already knew this aircraft cold. Just after 7:40 that evening, with only Cooper and 4 crew left aboard, the plane takes off again. Mexico City, Cooper's order, non-stop, rear stairs down, flying low and slow. 2 fighter jets trail behind, out of his sight. He has the crew lower that staircase. At some point after they last see him, he is gone. Everyone survives. Every passenger, every crew member, Cooper himself, so far as anyone can prove. This is and remains the only unsolved hijacking of a commercial airliner in American history, and it starts an investigation that would run for 45 years. You know this case by a name that isn't even real. Cronkite's newsroom first reported it as D.A. Cooper. A rushed reporter on Deadline misheard the actual ticket alias, Dan Cooper, as D.B. Cooper. A Wire reporter republished the mistake, and it stuck. Even the most famous detail in the story is a documented error. Over the next 45 years, the FBI investigates hundreds of names. Almost everyone ends the same way. Richard McCoy Jr., a real Green Beret and a skilled skydiver, hijacked a different plane 4 months later with an almost identical demand, $500,000, 4 parachutes. He is unquestionably guilty of that copycat crime, but the FBI never charged him with this one. He was 29. Not mid-40s with ears the witnesses didn't recognize, and skydiving skill far beyond what the hijacker showed. He was probably in Las Vegas the day of the hijacking and home for Thanksgiving dinner the next. 3 stewardesses looked at his photo and said no. Kenneth Christensen, a WBIA trooper, named by his own brother after watching a documentary. Dwayne Weber, a convicted burglar, named by his widow over a deathbed confession. The FBI's own lead investigator thought he fit the profile and still didn't believe it. His fingerprints didn't match. Neither did his DNA. Robert Rackstraw, a Vietnam-era helicopter veteran, once told a television audience he was Cooper, then called it a stunt. He was 28 in 1971. A flight attendant who'd seen the real hijacker up close said his photo showed no similarities at all. Sheridan Peterson, a Boeing technical editor and professional smoke jumper, one independent investigator says he is 98% convinced. That is one man's opinion, not an FBI finding, and Peterson himself claimed he was in Nepal. William Gossett showed his sons a safe deposit key he said held the missing money. The FBI's own agent put it plainly, there is not one link to the DB Cooper case, other than the statements he made to someone. Fingerprints didn't match. Alibis held. Witnesses said no. Statements led nowhere. This isn't a case of nobody ever looking hard enough. It is the opposite. An agency that checked and checked and checked and still has nothing. February 10th, 1980. An 8-year-old named Brian Ingram is raking sand for a campfire on a beach called Tina Bar on the Columbia River. He finds 3 packets of decaying cash, still held together by rubber bands, $5,800. The FBI confirms it, real ransom money in the same order Cooper was handed it. For a moment, it looks like the case is one real break, the only physical trace of Cooper, the money, or the parachutes ever found outside the plane itself in 55 years. Then, in 2020, scientists test microscopic algae trapped in the bills, diatoms that only bloom in spring, which means that money didn't wash straight downriver from a fall jump in November. It got into the sand months later. No one knows how. The one piece of physical evidence in this entire case doesn't confirm where Cooper landed. It makes the mystery of how it got there deeper. 45 years of names, and in January of 2026, the FBI quietly released hundreds more pages from its case file, the newest chapter of a story that has never had an ending. Buried in those new pages, a man, 48 years old, with a background in military and civil aviation, interviewed by agents at his own home in the months after the hijacking. He said he'd already moved out of state months before for family reasons. 2 months later, an agent wrote a name on the file, by hand. The file itself blacks it out. What survives isn't the name. It is the 4 words around it, and a bar of solid ink where the name used to be. 45 years of names. Every one of them crossed out, even, it seems, from us. In 2024, Richard McCoy's own children said publicly that they believe their late father really was Cooper. It is their belief. The FBI's file still says otherwise. On July 8, 2016, the FBI did something it had never done in 45 years. It stopped, officially suspended, to redirect resources to matters of, in its own words, greater and more urgent priority. Local offices would still take new evidence, if anyone ever finds any. The case file runs to 66 volumes, sitting in Washington, D.C., open to the public to this day. Nobody has ever been named. Nobody has ever been charged. A man in loafers stepped into a storm with $200,000, and 55 years later, the only honest answer anyone can give is we don't know.